Hi, it's 1010 the Navigator. Hope everyone is enjoying their day. I just wanted to touch on a couple of topics here. And it's just because I sense some concern possibly if and when the Anunnaki return this year. And it seems like, according to the book, there is a strong possibility that that could take place. But I also wanted to bring up a topic. I created a video not too long ago about I think it's not our fault that we're contaminated, or is it our fault that we're contaminated? Because in the book, it talks about grace contamination and what it's done to the human population on this planet. And that's why there's a lot of people that are highly contaminated, medium contaminated, or light contamination. And it got me thinking about, different aspects of things that would keep people from elevating mentally. I think about the hangups that people would have from really seeing the bigger picture here. And the point of that video is if the book is correct in saying that there are a lot of contaminated humans here, means that they're not 100% human anymore. And so if and when you meet somebody, you might be on the same contamination level, or you might be 100% human. And those humans are attracted to each other biologically. There's a very strong desire to be with each other, but to stay together. Okay, it's a little different than just your basic sexual desire. All right. And I think about the things that could hinder people from really understanding that it is not about what you look like. And I say this because there was a comment left in this video, and I felt that this person missed the point. The DNA activation between people. You could look the same, you could look different. I don't want to say that person had a smaller mindset, but yes, in a way you do. Because people are caught up in the exterior far too often. Well, I need to be attracted to my partner. And here's the problem too. We live here on this planet, and the sole purpose of human beings is to procreate. What are our basic physical, biological, requirements? Eating, drinking, sleeping, and reproducing. Basic. Now, what would be elevated is being with somebody and looking outside of their flesh suit, as I would call it, and seeing them for the person they actually are, or their DNA. Similar to yours, but you may look different on the outside. If you come to my channel and you have issues with skin color, if you have issues with men, or if you have issues with women, I just don't know if this is the place for you. I don't know if you're ready for this. Because in my opinion, the Anunnaki are no respecter of persons. They don't care what you look like. They don't care if you're a man or a woman. They don't care what the color of your skin is. They're judging you based upon your DNA. And that was the purpose of the video. And the fact that the population of humans could be so minute as to where maybe it looks like an interracial relationship. I hate even saying interracial because we have the human race here and we have alien humans or humanoids from other planets that dwell here. Like, I think that a lot of the original Russians are from Mars. That's where they came from. And you'll see a lot of Mars symbology. You know, I think they've got like the Mars square. I made a video about it if you want to go watch it. But they planned on going back to Mars this year, but they couldn't because they're in a fight with the Ukraine. Then it got me thinking about the Outer Space Treaty and how that was put into effect October 10th, which is my birthday, in 1962, which talks about that space and the planets and the celestial bodies cannot be owned by anybody. Asteroids, things like that. It's pretty much for everybody. Space is for everyone. So why are they trying to go back to these planets if they can't live there? If space is an open domain, you're not supposed to have any military presence, which brings me on to Space Force. However, Space Force is apparently not violating any type of, is not violating this treaty because it's acceptable under international law. So there's that. But the whole purpose of Space Force is, from what Trump said, I think it was in 2019, it was just the rebranding of another military presence. I can't remember the name or the acronym that it was before that, and then before that. But it's always been around. And, you know, he was like, wouldn't it be cool? You know, because he says crazy things, just kind of entertaining. You know, we'd have our wars in space. Not here on the planet, but we're still having wars here on this planet. So got me thinking, well, who are you trying to fight out there in space, even though technically there's no actual like military or boots on the ground for Space Force, but it's a membership that you can become a part of, similar to NASA. You know, you have to be a part of a club. All this secret knowledge as to why they're doing what they're doing. But it really started to ramp up. I want to say it could have been, you know, COVID was probably a real thing. I'm not saying COVID didn't exist. All right, people were out there getting sick, you know. People experienced losses in family. I personally did. So I don't really want to debate that. The bigger picture is that Space Force was implemented, and, you know, maybe they thought that the Anunnaki were coming back in 2020. So they needed something as a distraction, keep people inside, keep them quarantined, keep them dumb to really what's going on, to keep, you know, the news from being too nosy. And my thoughts is, and I think Rat talked about this not too long ago, he was talking about India, and in the book it talks about how the Anunnaki view people that eat meat as contaminated. And I think in India, the population, it's like 80% is Hinduism. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm wrong, you can let me know in the comments, they're vegetarian there, and like 20% is Muslim. In Hinduism, the cow is sacred, and, you know, they basically just eat vegetables and legumes and rice and things like that, and avoid meat. And I thought that would be a really good place for the Anunnaki to come back if that's where they were to come back. They wouldn't come back to America. Too much contamination here, and in probably other countries as well. But there could be other smaller countries, with a dense population of vegetarians. This might be just a completely ignorant thing that I'm stating right now, but that's the first place I thought of for non-meat eating country is India. I don't think it's the first time that aliens have come to India, because it seems like with the types of beautiful architecture in that country, that they've had different species of aliens come to their country. And that's definitely something that I'd like to look into, as well as the Tiamat, who was the dragon that was killed by Marduk. Because originally, and I kind of cracked jokes with Rat a couple of times about women probably lived on a separate planet and probably were able to reproduce on their own. And it's funny because that's what the book said. And then men came, and I know, guys, listen, don't take that on you. You weren't the guys that came here according to this book and did these terrible things. So just like I wasn't a woman that self-reproduced. All right. So we'll just keep it like that. We won't get too deep into it. Because I know right now, like, gender wars is a huge thing, but we have to get past gender wars. We have to get past race wars. We have to get past all those things. We have to come together and be unified. And that seems to be very difficult for people to do here, because everybody feels so personally attacked by certain things. And I've had to spend time working on myself, and I still have a lot of things to work on. But I will say the type of rhetoric I do not allow on my channel is men versus women, unless it's in a constructive manner, or it's informational, but not, well, it's all women's fault, or, it's all men's fault. No, I'm not having that here. You'll get your comment deleted and you'll be blocked. All right. There's plenty of other channels that delve into that kind of stuff. You can go there. This channel, I'm trying to focus on the unification of the human species. And I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care what ethnicity you are. Welcome. But if you have a mindset that is hateful towards men or women or certain ethnic groups, you are still welcome to listen, but that kind of rhetoric I will not allow for. Like I said, I will delete your comments. There's plenty of other channels that allow for that kind of talk. It's sad that I have to have this conversation. I know the people that have been on my channel for a long time, you all are pretty much very respectful, and we keep it on task, when it comes to the topics. And I appreciate your input, but I have had a couple of people just come to my channel and say silly things. Now, I want to say there was one person in particular that put a comment about, I've heard the Anunnaki are Black Africans. What do you think? Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that they are also Middle Eastern. I've heard that they're white. I've heard that they're Asian. Now, probably the predominant the predominant ethnicity would either be Middle Eastern or Black African, right? That's what we're hearing. But I want to offer this thought up to everybody. If you are an alien species and you are coming to a planet, and let's say there is no such thing as color where you come from, might be or the colors here are not the same as the colors where you come from. Because the spectrum here on this planet is different. Humans' eyesight and color perception is obviously going to be different, could be similar to an alien species. If I lived on Mars and Mars is predominantly red, maybe not all the time it was red, but maybe my eyes would only see reds, browns, oranges, yellows on that spectrum. If I come from another planet and I say, okay, I'm going to go visit these particular people, but I am going to look like them because I don't want to frighten them too much. However, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm different than they are, but they can grasp the fact that we're similar, because in the minds of a lot of people, they like to identify with people in a specific way. I want to be able to identify with you physically because that's the first perception that I have of you. Because on a basic level, that's how people are. Well, if I want my God to be white because I'm white, I want my God to be brown because I'm brown, and so forth and so on. But what if it's because these gods came and said, okay, we need to try to assimilate and look similar to them as to not frighten to them? If I'm white and I'm coming to see the Black Africans, they might say, you have to get out of here. They might be accepting, I don't know. But they would do better, just like any other ethnicity would, if that particular God came and looked similar to them. Because that's the mindset of a human being. I have to identify with you in order for me to take you seriously. All right, so that's something that I'm putting out there as a thought. And so it's pretty much saying that the Anunnaki come, and to these particular cultures, they present themselves as this specific color or shade that's similar to those that are in the area, that are indigenous to this planet and their part of the world. Makes sense to me. But I also want to offer up something else. Because when people ask me, what color do I think the Anunnaki are? I don't think about that. I know what I've heard, but I don't put those type of restrictions on them. In India, they show blue gods or a blue god. Would it be challenging for people to see a god and accept them for how they look? Again, we're basing everything on the physical aspect because that's what humans do. That's what we do. That's what people do. Well, I can't really understand or grasp this concept because this person doesn't look like me. Oh, okay. But if they don't look like me, then I feel like I'm being left out. That my ethnicity is not important in the grand scheme of things. And what I'm saying to you, and I think we can meet on this equal playing field and say that according to this book, it doesn't matter. If you're highly contaminated, you're done. If you're medium contaminated, you can end up on another planet somewhere and held off until that whole population dies off from being infertile. If you're low contamination, you can go through the Ba'abs and you could be saved. I think the medium, you can try to go through Ba'abs too. And then you can, if you're low contamination and you've been cleared to the Ba'abs, you can be here on a new earth, which is what a lot of religions, especially Christianity, talks about: a new heaven and a new earth. And in the book, it talks about the earth being covered with this gray matter substance. And I'm going to throw something wild out there. The moon is covered with this gray mattery substance. But time does not exist out there in space. It's different than time here on this earth. Time could be irrelevant. So what could be thousands of years here on this planet is like one day out there in space, or a second, or a minute. As humans, and I know Rat would get on me, I don't think you're human. I don't have any evidence of what I am or not, so I just associate with being a human, and that's what I am. But I want people to progress and elevate so that we can become the best versions of ourselves. And what will happen? This whole book has really set a perspective for me, even more than before. Someone else left a comment, I think it was Alex. Do you really think that the Anunnaki are going to return this year? This is a high possibility that they will, according to this book. And we're seeing certain things happening here on this planet that's showing us that that is a high probability. And he said, or she said, this means that my plans are going to have to change. And I know for me that I've been hyper-focused on spending more time with my family and enjoying every moment, even if I'm scrubbing the tub. Or instead of scrubbing the tub as much, I go outside and play with my kids. Whatever your situation is now, and you think, oh man, my situation is miserable. I have nothing, I have no one. You make the best out of your situation. You live your life right now in this moment as if tomorrow is not guaranteed to you, which is what we've heard. I've heard that most of my life. Tomorrow's not promised, and it isn't. So how are you living today? Are you embracing everything? Are you trying to be the best version of yourself? Are you reconnecting with maybe family members that you haven't talked to in a long time? Are you showing random acts of kindness to people that you don't know? I was thinking about kindness the other day too, because I watched a baby on the news get pulled out of a collapsed building in Jordan. I saw all these men, going in there, and they grabbed the baby, and I started crying for the baby and how the baby felt being alone and in the dark and without his or her parent or grandparent or brother or sister, or whomever, or if mom and dad and the rest of the family is still in the building. But those men saved that little baby, and I cried. I was in the gym too, and I didn't care. Because those are the little pieces of hope that I see that are so huge. And everybody's so concerned about being right about everything. Well, I need to be right. I've got to be right. I need to be in a relationship. I need to have money. I need to be this, and I need to be that. Are you elevating yourself spiritually? Are you elevating yourself emotionally? Physically, I feel physically is probably the easiest way to elevate yourself. You really just have to change and modify your diet and exercise and do certain things, and your physicality, becomes better. Spiritual growth and development, that's a lot of work. Mental and intellectual growth, that's a lot of work too, especially with the right things. Because it seems that we're up against, at least here in America, there's nothing wrong with having fun. There's nothing wrong with memes, but there's a lot of content out there that purposefully will just make you dumber and waste space in your brain. Like Maximilien de Lafayette was saying, I think it's called Jubus, is the data that's stored in your brain, and it's like junk, and you need to clear it and get rid of it and keep the things that are important in your mind. And then compartmentalize that information so that you can gather more and you can grow intellectually. Being a part of the conspiracy realm, some of you may have people in your life that don't agree with what you listen to, what you watch about conspiracies. Most of the people I know, they kind of think that it's wild what I listen to about the Anunnaki or the reptilians or the draconians or, the music industry and movies and, the Freemasons. All these different societies. How I decide to remain neutral, not Democrat or Republican, because it doesn't work. The system does not work. It sets you up to be divided amongst one another way to do it. It causes division. And if you look, if we were to come together and to unite here on this planet, those of us that spend so much time, Compartmentalizing ourselves. Well, I'm white, check that box. I'm a Democrat, check that box. I wear glasses, check that box. I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. Check, 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 check. Well, I really can't talk to you because you only have 4 boxes checked that are similar to me, and I have 10 boxes checked, and I need someone at least 6 boxes checked, for us to like meet kind of eye to eye. Otherwise, we're just going to be divided. And the whole point, right, is to remain balanced in your outlook on things. And that can be hard, especially when you see these different types of videos and this certain type of rhetoric that's being promoted causes you to want to come outside of that and create an emotional response. However, emotions are important because emotions do drive you, and they can drive you, but in a balanced way. You don't want to not feel things for people that are in pain and that are hurt. You don't want to remain neutral to that. You want to jump in the trenches with them and help pull them out if they want to be pulled out. I was listening to something. I'm so terrible at this sometimes, but it was like, you can't save everybody. And I was like, well, I don't think I'm trying to save anybody. But without knowing it, you take on this burden for others. And I've done that. And you can't save people. People choose what they want to do because they're their own person. But as a species here on this planet, whatever humans are left, it's important to come together so that we can change the climate, that we can help change the outcome of what's going to happen here. What do they call it? The butterfly effect. Just one small, insignificant thing that you do, but it's so significant, changes the outcome completely. Maybe for someone that you come into contact with. But anyway, I really appreciate you all. For those of you that have listened to this video, appreciate your time as always. And the only thing that I ask is that the comments remain respectful. They normally are. And even though I'm saying we need to do better here, we do. We need to do better. We need to start figuring out ways to unite. Again, understanding our differences, accepting our differences, but uniting, because if an alien species comes to this planet, it could either be good or bad for us. We could end up in a far worse situation than we are right now. I was watching the movie The Children of Men with Clive Owen, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with that movie, but I really like that movie. But it's kind of similar to the medium contamination, where it's like a post-apocalyptic or some type of event occurred there in England or Britain, somewhere over there. And something's happened, and you have the rich, most of the government officials, still living in their high towers, and it's difficult to find food, and then everyone else is pretty much out in the streets, and there's wars out in the street, but no one is able to reproduce. And the youngest person on the planet, Diego, was 18, died. And the whole earth, mourned the loss of this young man, because that was their hope. That was the last born child on this planet. People were rendered infertile. However, a young girl was found pregnant, and Clive Owen was on a mission to take her to the ship so that she could give birth. But it was in essence to remove her from that place. So it kind of got me thinking about the medium contamination and how it would make sense that there would be wars and certain types of people there because of that type of contamination. But if you haven't seen that movie, I enjoyed it. But really pay attention, because I like how the director filmed it, just showing the aspects of not just the main characters, but the people, around, and what was happening to them. Refugees in all different sizes and colors, and how they were treated and put into these detainee camps. Just very, very heartbreaking and saddening. And again, I offer up this glimmer of hope to everyone that life is what you make of it, and to take advantage, maybe learn something new or do something fun. Or something that you were like, oh, I've been waiting to do this and I haven't. Like going skydiving or scaling a mountain, I don't know. Going jet skiing, going skateboarding. Maybe a helicopter ride. I don't know. But anyway, I appreciate y'all's time. I hope you have a great rest of your day.